I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it. We had this problem the other week too, so I just started us on a recording.
That's fine. Then I'll get it after. I'll get it from the site afterward.
Okay, great. So my name is Lori. We're Lori and Lori tonight. My name is Lori Feldstein, and I live in Efrat, a little bit south of Jerusalem, where I came 13 and a half years ago from New Jersey with my husband and 5 children, plus 1 in Israel, so 6 children. And I get to combine my love of teaching and EdTech and share EdTech with people all over the world by working with JET. Lori's also on board here from our JET staff. Lori, you already introduced yourself to Rebecca, but you want to just say hi.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Lori. I work with JETS for several years, and I mostly do administrative stuff, and I live in Svat, as I mentioned.
Okay, so I'm going to throw that out. Okay, and just ask you guys if you want to share what you guys have, what you actually teach, and what you have experience with in terms of using EdTech. Oh no.
Rebecca, do you want to go first?
Sure. I am the director at a Reformed congregation in Annapolis. I teach a little bit of the 7th grade on Wednesday evenings, and we have not really used a whole lot of EdTech. We do use the Berman House online learning center, and we haven't really explored too much of it. And since I'm new there, and they don't even have computers, I had to purchase some computers. So that's kind of why I'm here, is to figure out the best way to integrate this into our school.
Great.
Okay, and I'm in 4th and 5th grade Jewish studies at our day school, Proman Jewish Day School. And I've been teaching there for many, many years. And I like trying out a lot of different tech tools because I believe in using technology for instruction, not just the splashy presentations. So I'm constantly looking to acquire or procure, I don't know what language I speak anymore, the skills to then teach certain things to the kids and know what tech tool would work best with what kind of a lesson.
Okay, so Lisa, some of what we're going to do tonight, you've certainly heard before and you've certainly seen before, but hopefully you'll appreciate it more in exactly that, in an application mode of really how you can use it. And then we're going to look at some things that hopefully you haven't used before or seen before.
Even if we have, I forget, and then listening to it again, it gives me new ideas on how to use it. Don't worry about repeating.
Great. Okay. So thanks for that amazing worksheet. How many of you guys, or how often have you heard that from your students?
Never.
Never.
Okay. Pretty much none of us have ever heard that. So what other options do we have?
Hands-on. Instruction, hands-on materials.
Okay. Hands-on materials like?
Manipulatives, flashcards, shaving cream in your hands, fingers in the shaving cream.
Okay. Tactile materials, what other kinds of things?
I've used big pieces of paper hanging up for chalk talk, and I've also taken placemat-sized paper. I've had something in the middle of it, and then I let 4 kids at a time write their reactions to whatever it is. It's a lot of 2-dimensional stuff.
Okay, so we can certainly take things to 2- and 3-dimensional things with tactile things. But we can also, and here we are on an Intro to EdTech webinar, we can move in the direction of using EdTech. So if our goal is not to just hand out a flat worksheet and say, okay, this is our learning, how can EdTech help us to reach our goals?
Whoops, just lost the screen.
No, you didn't lose the screen. I took it off because I wanted to see.
Oh.
Don't worry, when we're engaged in an app or something, I won't take your screen away from you.
Okay.
How can EdTech help you to achieve some of your goals of moving away from the worksheet? And it's okay if you don't know because you've never really worked with EdTech. hopefully by the
I use Google Docs nonstop. It's a collaborative way for the kids to work. And we also now use Google Classroom for 2 years. So I can provide kids with that amazing worksheet in another format. So it looks like it's a little more fun.
Okay, great. So a few words that you said. EdTech can help you bring more collaborative learning into your classrooms. And EdTech, even more significantly, through collaborative learning, EdTech can really help you raise the level of learning in your classroom. So everybody's familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. If you guys had to say, as teachers in the classroom, which of Bloom's taxonomy do you think your students most enjoy?
Application, synthesis, I would think are the most. I'm not really in the classroom though, so I'm not the one to talk.
Okay.
No, I agree with you though, because unless it's a fun evaluation and informal and they don't realize it, I think where they're actually doing the doing and all the description words on there, they're having more fun than.
Like to do.
Absolutely. So Lisa, you hit the nail on the head. Both of you did. Rebecca also. Actually doing the doing, that real learning comes in place not so much when we tell our students something and expect them to repeat it back to us, but when we flip Bloom's taxonomy, right? And we give our students the primary opportunity or focus is on creating. And what we're going to really focus on tonight is how EdTech can help us. Obviously, we have to give over information to our students. They need to do a certain amount of remembering. We have to have them understand the material that they're covering. But how, when we shoot for creating and we use EdTech, we can really bring a much higher level of learning into our classroom, and we can do it in a way that speaks more to our students and allows our students to collaborate with each other. So the first thing, Lisa put it out there, the first and easiest thing, and most of the things that we're looking at tonight are EdTech tools that our students do not have to individually sign up for. You can just send them a link and they can participate. So we're looking at very simple EdTech tools tonight. And the first one we're going to look at is the Google form. So right now, I'm going to ask you guys just to take a look at 2 little video clips, which will give us some background for us to look at a Google form and actually participate. Lori's going to drop in the chat for us the link to this Google form in a minute.
Mein lieber Rudi, it's a long time since we heard from you, and we're all strained like an open book.
It is not possible to continue such a life.
When Daniel Schwab found a box in his parents' garage with his grandfather Rudy's name on it, he had no idea the impact this discovery would have. The collection was correspondence between his grandfather Rudy Schwab, who'd sought refuge in Johannesburg just before World War II at the tender age of 17, and Rudy's friends and family left behind in Germany. Now, how did Rudy find himself in South Africa?
In 1933, when Hitler came to power, my grandfather was the head of the Jewish youth movement in that area. And he was one of the first people that was picked out to be arrested. His best friend turned out to be a Nazi party member. So he got this tip-off from Karl Kipfer, his Nazi friend. The first ticket he could get out of Germany, he took. And then the first country that accepted him was South Africa.
Bandits came to visit your father on 8th November and totally wrecked the place. The jewelry was stolen, boxes thrown.
The letters, mostly written in German, span the period before, during and after World War II. They tell the story of Rudy starting his life afresh in South Africa and his family's life back in Germany, as Nazi control became more and more oppressive.
Every Sunday he was sitting at the dining room table, all dressed up, tie and his jacket and his grey flannel pants, and he would type away on his portable typewriter with the carbon paper to have the copies.
Rudy's only son Norman had no idea what was in the letters. He didn't understand German, and his father never spoke about the past.
On a personal level, definitely the pain that my father suffered is it's palpable in those letters. It's unbelievable that he wrote these things, without saying anything to anybody.
Okay, so this curriculum, or this little piece of a clip, and we're going to watch one more short clip before we go on to the Google form, is part of a curriculum that we use for teaching the experience of German Jews during the Shoah. And I've used it with 7th graders in schools and for 7th graders in day schools as well.
Even message comes through to the outer world.
When Rudy had initially been tipped off on the dangers of staying in Hanau, Germany, he tried to get his parents to emigrate with him. Rudy's father Max wasn't all that worried. After all, he'd fought for the German army in World War I. He was a company commander. He'd even been decorated for bravery. Surely he wouldn't be targeted.
He said, we're Germans, before we Jews. They felt that, very definitely. Especially my grandfather, who was
decorated.
He was decorated in the First World War by von Hindenburg himself. Mm-hmm. They won't touch us. That was it. How wrong? How wrong?
Okay, I'd like us to take a moment. I see some other people have joined us. Ariella, Stephen, perhaps you guys can quickly just unmute yourselves, introduce yourselves, just tell us where it is that you teach. And, 1 second, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Ariella. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi Ariella.
Hi,
poured out with their lives, memories, small aches, huge astonishment, eyes questioning, bamboozled.
Sorry, go ahead, Ariella.
Sorry. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I teach at Netivot HaTorah Day School. I teach grades 1 to 3, Judaic Studies.
Great. And what about your background with EdTech?
I use a lot of educational technology in my classroom. I bring in the iPads. I have a smart board. I use Seesaw a lot. Everything that I do on the iPads gets uploaded to Seesaw. And I'm excited to learn more.
Great. Terrific. Okay. And Stephen?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you. Do you have a camera?
Oh, I turned it off. Is that okay?
It's fine. It's fine. We like to see you, but it's okay. It's fine.
You know, I mean, I look a little like Frankenstein, so, you know, I don't want to bust the camera or anything.
Just introduce yourself. And
so I'm a rabbi in Houston, Texas, and I use a lot of different technology, and I'm hoping to do some distance learning using YouTube videos and SafariA for texts.
Oh, great. Super. Okay, you'll see in the next Google form you look at, we have a little SafariA. Okay, terrific.
Right.
Okay, so just to back you guys up and bring you where we are, we were starting to look, we talked a little bit about why EdTech and how that really can allow us to increase collaborative learning in our classrooms and increase the level of learning for a much higher level of learning in our classrooms, and have creating being the goal, not just knowledge acquisition. And we're looking first at the very simple EdTech tool of Google Forms. So in order to do that, in a minute, you guys are going to go into the chat, and you're going to click on the link that Lori put there for you, and it's going to bring you to a Google form, which is going to ask you some information or play with the information that we just got in those 2 video clips, which, just to catch you up if you missed the clips, they were a short clip about the Schwab family, who the grandfather, Rudy Schwab, and the family had to flee at the age of 17 from the Nazis. He was warned by his best friend, who was a Hitler Youth. He was able to get out and go to South Africa, where he sat down every Sunday in his suit and tie and wrote in triplicate letters back to his parents and younger brother, who did not want to leave at the time that Rudy left, who ultimately did not make it out of Germany. They were killed. And Rudy locked these letters. He had copies of these letters from 1933 through 1945 that he was writing, and he locked them in a trunk where they were found by his grandson. Now we're all caught up, and we're going to click on that link that's in the chat and come on to this Google form.
It's not a live link for me.
Why is it not a live link? If it's not a live link for you, this is not what you're seeing?
No, I'm in the chat clicking on it, and it's just not a live link.
Okay, so let me Okay, let me put it into the chat again.
Zoom seems to have some kind of issue today because I just clicked on it and it opened for me. And I know that other people have messaged me and they said, like Rabbi Morgan said, he had trouble getting in. So
I had trouble
Zoom
getting in
must
also.
be having an off day.
As those of you who work with EdTech know, that sometimes we have to be flexible and we'll work around it. So if for some reason it is not letting you get in there, I'm going to put it up for you and we're going to accomplish. I wanted you guys to have the experience. Hopefully the next thing I put up you'll be able to get into, but I wanted you to have the experience of walking through this. So you can see in this Google form that we ask, some very simple knowledge questions, and it is, like Lisa said before, a worksheet in a more fun way, a piece of it. How old was Rudy when he fled South Africa? Why did he leave? But then we can shoot for much higher level questions immediately. Why did Rudy lock his letters in a trunk and he didn't tell anyone about them, even his own children? And what else was locked in Rudy's trunk, aside from the letters symbolically? So our students are working on their Chromebooks or their tablets or their iPads, and they're answering these questions. Some of them can be very basic knowledge, and then we can shoot for those higher level critical thinking questions. But the beauty of the Google Doc becomes when we're able, after everybody has taken a few minutes to fill it out, to look at the responses. Now, unfortunately, you guys did not fill this out. But what we would see now, if we were able to look at the responses, is we would see everybody's answers, and you would be able to see if it was a knowledge question right away, how are your students picking up the information? But more importantly, you see and can right away discuss and have a much higher level discussion of everybody's insights and thoughts as to why they thought Rudy could not share his trunk or what was in the trunk with anybody, and what they thought, which, I mean, I've gotten answers from, everything from his family to his soul to his heart to all kinds of very meaningful answers that led to very creative discussions and very meaningful discussions that wouldn't have happened just by handing out a worksheet to my students. And we all can collaborate at the same time on the Google form. So I just want to give you an idea. That's a very simple Google form of another Google form that students, this was used with 8th grade students in Manhattan Day School who were learning about the Meraglim, or the spies. And another thing, and Rabbi Morgan, you mentioned JETSIrael, which is a beautiful website where you can access any text that you want from Tanakh and many, many other much else of rabbinic literature. So here we can also get right away, shoot our students to creativity. We can give them a picture in the Google form and ask them to find a verse or a pasuk which matches the image. And there isn't one right answer. So when we go to responses, it will generate a real discussion on what that picture means and why and what that concept is. And then we can ask our students to actually read from us. We can click them through. I'll just show you all just so you see it. Oh, actually, I apologize. Right now my internet is a little bit weak and it is not working. But we would click right through. Students can click right through here where they would have the verse in front of them. And then they are asked to read the verse and to record it. And more than just reading that verse and recording it, they have to rate themselves, self-evaluate, or they can be working in pairs and evaluating each other. Did they read with understanding? Did they read correctly and pronounce the words correctly? And again, when we go to the responses, you will have a record which you can keep and you can look back on from the beginning of the year to a third of the way through the year to a halfway through the year towards the end of the year. How are your students doing in terms of reading? By listening to them, by their self-evaluation, by their peer evaluation. And again, you can shoot for higher level questions. What are the Meraglim thinking in this image? And you can ask them to create something. We see that the Meraglim, except for Joshua and Caleb, gave false reports about the land and her people. create a hashtag here to express what you think motivated the Meraglim to tell lies about Eretz Yisrael. So in one form, we can be shooting for higher level critical thinking questions and creativity, and we can be having our students working on their Hebrew reading, and we can be evaluating and keeping a record of their Hebrew reading, which is a great, I did give everybody, by the way, I did not give you a link for this second form. I was just showing you the possibilities of using a Google form with the second form. So,
Susie, can I just ask a question, please?
Absolutely. We're going to stop now and we're going to unpack the Google forms. So go ahead, Lisa.
It's just a question. Can you put in the beginning of a Google form, in the instruction, the original video that the kids would be watching so that if somebody needs to watch it again, they can? Or would you have uploaded it elsewhere?
Okay. You can embed in Google Forms. Yes, you can embed pictures, you can embed videos. The truth of the matter is, Lisa, that again, as I gave you the Google form because it is the easiest app to use for creating this kind of an interactive worksheet and keeping a record. But there are other things that as you guys go on and learning in EdTech, this is just opening the doors to what EdTech can do. That would be better things like you would use a Wiser, or you would use something which much more easily lets you embed a video. Okay, so let's go back to then looking at the Google form and just everybody being on the same page and understanding the Google form, educational goals, tech tools and skills needed for creating a Google form and for students to use a Google form. Well, who uses Google Forms all the time?
I use them as a teacher with the rest of the faculty. For some reason, I've never used it with my students. I don't know why. Maybe once. I was having lunch over as part of a PTO function. They were coming to my house and I did a whole, what do you like on your pizza? That's all I did.
Okay, so no one has ever used a Google form? Okay, so then from just this quick taste of a Google form, what kind of applications can you see in using a Google form?
Well, you can set up all different types of questions like you showed, not just based on the taxonomy, but they can respond to a multiple choice question, open-ended. Just every possible option is available.
Right, right. So it significantly ups your worksheet of reviewing materials, presenting materials, getting your students to synthesize and evaluate materials, getting your students to create. And that piece of the Google form that some of us who use a lot more EdTech and use the Wiser and other more snazzy things out there forget, the responses. You have a built-in record keeping of your students' work when you use the Google form, and especially when you're teaching or working with Hebrew language or Tanakh or Hebrew prayer, it really allows you to keep a record of how your students are doing throughout the year. So, okay, the Google form, the first and simplest thing that we're going to look at this evening. We're going to move on, and we're going to look at a collaborative learning board called a Padlet. Now, a Padlet, I'm going to give you a sample of a Padlet, and then we're going to get to work in a Padlet. You can use a Padlet to introduce material to your students and have them interact with that material. So in this Padlet, this Prime Minister's Padlet, 7th graders in a Hebrew school learning a curriculum about Israel were introduced to 4 prime ministers, to Golda Meir, to Yitzhak Rabin, to Menachem Begin, and to Shimon Peres. And they were asked to watch 2 of these videos, so about any 2 of these prime ministers, and then they were asked to post on this collaborative learning board 2 or 3 leadership qualities they saw in the prime minister and talk about a quality that they most related to. So here, the students are getting information. You can post videos, pictures, articles, all kinds of materials onto a Padlet, and you can ask your students to interact with that material. Now, I hope we'll be more successful here. Lori is going to drop for you now a link to another Padlet, a Padlet which contains quotes, which was also used in a Shoah. It was used with seventh graders in a Shoah curriculum. And it was, we're going to come on to it and you'll see exactly what it has, but it has quotes. You can set the Padlet up. Again, I said to you, it's a collaborative learning board, and it can be set up in many different ways. So this Padlet is set up in columns. And here, students were asked to read these quotes about not being a bystander and to choose a quote which they relate to the most or think is the most meaningful and explain why. The way you write on the Padlet is you can click on, so here I am, under the Edmund Burke quote, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I click here, I can write my name, and then I can write whatever it is I want to do. And I can post videos, I can post recordings, I can post pictures, I can post articles on my Padlet. So does everybody have this Padlet? Everybody was able to get into this link?
No.
I mean, I imagine I could copy and paste it into another. I can't.
Okay, so that's, I'm giving it to you again. If for some
Works for me.
Okay, fantastic. So you should be able to come onto this Padlet. Now, again, the great thing about a Padlet is your students do not have to sign on to the Padlet. Your students can just take your link and come right onto the Padlet. You also can delete your students' responses if they are not, you know what, I think the chat is jammed. If you need to copy the link and put it into another window,
Maybe copy and paste.
you can copy and paste if you haven't been able to come there.
Out there, nothing there. Oh, wait, here we go.
Got it.
I got it.
Great. So this just gives you an idea that you're on a board where everybody is seeing the board, everybody's collaborating at the same time. And you can ask your students, again, like on the Prime Minister's Padlet, they were learning information and responding to it. Here, we're in the middle of learning about the Shoah and what it means to be a bystander or not to be a bystander. And they're asked to look at these quotes and think about them and to respond to the one they think is the most meaningful. So I'm going to ask you guys to choose a quote, click on to that column, and write your response.
What are we supposed to write where the title is?
Okay, so you guys are right. You're choosing a quote and explaining why it's the most meaningful or you think it's the most important quote about helping others or not being a bystander, and you write your name and you explain that quote. So you would go to the column of the quote that you are responding to. And you would click where there's a little plus sign under that. This particular Padlet works in columns. The first one that I showed you did not work in columns.
Whoops.
Okay, so I don't know who typed this because you didn't write your name under Pirkei Avot. the Mark Twain quote. Lisa, oh great. Okay, so great. So Lisa is picking up on that piece of the Pirkei Avot quote, which talks about role models. Even it's not the easiest path to take, or talking about forcing yourself into that place of being a role model, even when it's very, very difficult. So you would be able to pick up as your students are commenting and they're choosing which is the most meaningful quote, they can comment on each other. So you have collaborative learning going on, you have peer teaching going on, and you have a much more creative conversation, meaningful conversation of analyzing what it truly means to be a bystander, or what it truly means to step up and to help other people. So here we see one role or one use of using this kind of collaborative learning board and the Padlet. I'm going to show you another use of the Padlet, going back to our subject of the Miraglim. So students were given, this was used in, again, an 8th grade class in Manhattan Day School, where students were asked, what are the characteristics or motivations of the Miraglim? And one of the really nice thing on a Padlet is that you can post pictures, so you can give a lot of visual cues on a Padlet. And I just want to show you, so you can look at it for a minute, the completed Padlet, what it looked like after the students. This is not a columned Padlet. This is one where the students were just able to post and respond to each other. And you can see how instead of having a conversation where you have to call on students and maybe 3 of your students participate or 5 of your students participate, the entire class was engaged in thinking about what the characteristics and the motivations of the Miraglim were. And it was actually a lot of collaborative learning took place because they really piggybacked on each other or went back and forth in their thinking about what the motivations of the Miraglim were.
It does seem a little bit difficult to do a lot of going back and forth the way they're posted there. I mean, I can't read them exactly, they're small, but how do you know that you're responding to one of those many, many posts up there, and how do they know you've responded?
Because it's real time. So just like we're sitting here now and we're having a conversation, as they're writing, you're seeing it and you're discussing with them and posting, and they're commenting on each other as they're writing it. So it all takes place in real time. And like I showed you with the Padlet, Padlet used to be, Padlet is getting better and better. Now with Padlet, again, free app, and an app which your students do not need to individually sign on to. Now students can actually be commenting on each other on the Padlet on their comments, and you can set your Padlet up a little neater. We tend to use the column Padlets now because it lets you directly, when you're using the column, you're kind of commenting on one subject thread at a time. And
you can make creating streams of, yeah.
You see it, so you decide today how you want your Padlet to look. But even with Padlet, go ahead.
Does it have to be in real time? In other words, so if I'm doing adults, they may be logging on at different times of the day. Does that affect how this will work?
No, not at all.
They're not going to be talking to each other in real time. They'll be commenting over a course of several hours.
Not at all, because, well, first of all, there are other collaborative boards. If you were doing that not in real time, there's another collaborative board, which we're not looking at, which is very similar to the Padlet. It's called Alino. And you might want to use Alino only because Alino has you using Stickit, like Stickit notes. And so people could actually put them on top of each other in response. But you could do the same, a similar thing, and it's a little bit neater in the columns in the Padlet. And it doesn't make a difference because what you would do is you would have people responding or creating or writing or whatever it is they need to be doing on the Padlet. And in the end of the day, you would respond to the whole thing. Whether you send, if you're not all together ever, you would send out some kind of a link where you respond. Or when you are all together, you would bring up the completed Padlet and allow it, to serve as a collaborative learning board. So you can use it. Sometimes you give it as a homework assignment where students fill in a Padlet and then you come back to it. So it doesn't only have to be done in real time.
Do you have the link for Lino?
LINOIT.com. Oh, but I'm telling you, I'm giving you a taste tonight.
Okay.
And, Lino, I'm going to show you something else which can be used very interestingly as a, okay, so unpacking the Padlet. Again, educational goals, tech tools, and skills needed for creating a Padlet and using a Padlet.
Again, it's interactive more than collaborative.
Okay, definitely interactive.
And kids can respond to each other sort of a little bit after they do their initial post.
And what about tech tools and skills needed?
For them to respond to a Padlet that's teacher created, or for them to do their own Padlets?
Either one, for them to be using a Padlet, or you as educators to be creating Padlets. Lisa, you said before that you use Google Forms with your colleagues, but you don't really use it as a teaching tool.
Right.
I'll drive home to you that both of these things that we've seen, both the Google Form and the Padlet, it does not require, it's free. First of all, they're both free. They do not require a login. So it's a very easy tool for you to use. It requires going on and playing with it a little. You have to have your goal of what you're using it for. It requires going on it and playing with it. But as a tech tool, it is not something very complicated to master. Okay, so we're going to up it a little bit and look at.
You can post graphic and videos and things like that also.
Yes, everything. So we're going to up it a little and look at something a little bit more complicated. It has until now been a free link. It's moving in the direction of starting to charge. We at JETS actually pay the $35 a year for the a little more advanced version. But it's a very, very fun and creative app. And it is called a Thing Link. So I want to show you a sample of a Thing Link and walk you through it. And then I'm actually going to send you to look at a whole bunch of Thing Links. A Thing Link is an interactive poster. It's a place where you can download recordings, download videos, download articles, record yourself. You can put pictures. We've done it oftentimes. I've done it with Eli Cohen, the Israeli spy, had a big picture of him with the recording of him speaking from in Damascus, with videos about his life, with articles about him. And here you can see how clever this is in teaching Hebrew language. So first of all,
Tafrit.
There is the reading of words.
Ochel. Pizza.
So students have the opportunity to practice Hebrew vocabulary and pronunciation. But
Shakshuka.
They can also learn, they might not know exactly what shakshuka is. They can also here read articles, and their learning is really culture in addition to Hebrew language. This was used in a Hebrew language course. So they're also given several articles here about falafel, about shakshuka, about limonana, about uniquely Israeli foods and drinks, as well as the opportunity to practice the words. And there's an adorable little video embedded here about the Israeli food scene. So a Thing Link is an interactive poster that can be created to have your students using Hebrew words and Hebrew language and learning Hebrew. I'm going to send you in a minute, and I hope you guys will be able to get through the chat, get these samples. To come on to, we used a Padlet for this. Come on to this Padlet where you have Thing Link examples about the Nuremberg laws, about Hanukkah, about Talmud, a page of Talmud Brachot, and about religious Zionism. And once you guys are on this Padlet, you can just click on the link and you can take a peek at these different uses of the Thing Link. But I tend to use Thing Links with my students. And again, this is great, I would say, for students who are in 3rd grade and up, to use thing link when students have researched something, if they've learned about the different people in Israel, if they've learned about, we used it when they learned about all types of different spiritual resistance that took place during the Shoah, that the students create a thing link, and that's how they share their learning. So peer teaching goes on with the thing link, collaborative learning goes on with the thing link, as well as the thing link being a very interactive way for students to learn information. So have we been able to get onto this Padlet? Is everyone on the Padlet?
How do the kids access, just if you prepare a thing link for them,
you give them
can you post the link like in Google Classroom or any other way and they get your posting?
Put it in Google Slideshow, you put it in Google Classroom, just like I did it for you. You can put it on the pad. If I'm giving them 7 thing links to look at meaning if my class is making thing links and I want to share everybody's thing link with each other, I would put it on a Padlet like this, because that's the easiest way to share it. But if I'm sending them to a thing link to learn who is Eli Cohen or what are the Nuremberg laws, this one I use all the time in teaching Shoah, I would just give them that link and they go right to it. Again, until now, and even still today, thing link is something which they don't have to sign into and they can just access. That might change in the future, but still for today, you can. So I encourage you guys, has everybody been able to get onto this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, everybody is on this? Great. So I encourage you to just take a few minutes and browse through these thing links. They're really fun. It's a very creative way of learning and a very interactive way of learning. And great, Rabbi Morgan, terrific if you have distance learners or you're not all together in real time, a great way to share information, both information you want to give to your students and information that students want to share with each other.
Thank you. That's great. The Linet, what was it? Alignit? Is that
Lino, yes.
LINOIT.com?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So I guess we're just going to have to Google, noodle around and sort of figure out how to use these things, huh?
I'm going to give you a cheat sheet at the end of this webinar. So.
Oh, that's good.
Rabbi Morgan, I use Linoit in my class, and it's very, very user-friendly.
Yes.
You'll figure it out very quickly.
Yes.
Great. I was wondering how you created like that Google Doc. I mean, I use Google Docs, but kind of just simply with like using Word kind of stuff. And I've never created anything, you know, that looks nice like that questionnaire you had. That takes a little extra skill, I guess.
It is so quick and so easy. Okay, I'll give my little confession. I honestly, I have to tell you that, you know, I am not 20. And a year and a half ago, I was not using any of these apps. I came from a long background of teaching and running school programs. Using technology was not my thing. And when I got involved with JETS, it opened my eyes. All the things that we used to like turn ourselves inside out to try and accomplish in a classroom were available with the click of a button. You could raise the level of learning on every level, from peer teaching to collaborative learning to critical thinking in your classroom at the touch of a button. And so to not spend, and it really, nothing I've shown you tonight should be taking you more than, once you sat down and like learned it and looked really through the app, should be taking you more than 10 minutes to prepare. Like really, these things are that simple, that user-friendly.
That's great.
Okay, so I want to bring us to, if everybody's had a chance to look at the thing links, I want to bring us to one more app, and that is called Today's Meet, which Today's Meet is a real-time dialogue or a collaborative dialogue that we can create with our students. Again, a free app that you send a link, and your students, they have to sign in, which I'll show you how simple that is, but they don't have to, they sign into the app itself. There's no like signing in with an email or anything like that. So a today's link can be used to introduce a topic or generate a discussion. Like here, this today's link, and I'll just show you how it looks. We're going to look at a full one in a minute. Oh, this one was a full one. All students have to do here is they type in their nickname or their name. I can type in my name here, and I click join, and then I join the conversation. So here, we were starting to learn about Jerusalem, and we were going to go all the way back and learn why did King David pick Jerusalem. And before we even went there, we just looked at the common features of a capital. So again, it's a way of students, everybody participating at the same time in real time and piggybacking on each other and engaging all of your students, even those who wouldn't be so quick to raise their hands and call things out. So it can introduce a topic. It can be used to analyze an idea or a concept, like, am I my brother's keeper? We used it today's meet after that Padlet that you guys had looked at with all of those quotes to talk about, okay, so we've thought about these quotes, we've thought about different ways, why it's important to step up. Do we step up? And I'm just, you know, it was so interesting to see how brave students sometimes are when they don't have to call out an answer. Because look at what this student wrote, this young woman, Emily. Right away, she wrote, I can relate to the quote, I always wondered why someone didn't do something about that. Then I realized I'm somebody. And that started a huge conversation. And a lot of times, students take much more risks when they're putting it out there without having to raise their hand and out having to say it. And another great way to use the today's meet is to analyze and evaluate material learned. So this today's meet was used by students after they learned about the Nuremberg laws. And it raised so many issues, from students responding with they would hate, you know, to have to add, to change their middle name, to students really feeling scared and afraid, to some of the things the Nuremberg laws were about, to feeling embarrassed, to feeling afraid, to a couple of students who said, one said, I would kill myself, I was probably going to die anyway, and another one saying, I would want to kill myself. And it was very interesting because it led into, we put it on hold, and a couple of weeks later, after we had gotten to Kristallnacht and the situation getting worse and worse, and Jews in Germany really having nowhere to go and being trapped, it led into students coming back 2 weeks later to this today's meet conversation and thinking in a different way about that impact of the Nuremberg laws on Jewish life. So today's meet is a great way to just have a quick conversation that can bring up all kinds of things and help students begin to synthesize and analyze the materials that they're learning. So now, go ahead.
I forgot about today's meet. I loved it. We were using something called Answer Garden in my class a couple weeks ago, and another teacher was also, where kids would add a word and create a word cloud kind of a thing. In this other teacher's classroom, somehow some hacker sent in, they were all typing in Hebrew, Hitler was not a Nazi, some kind of comment like that, all of a sudden showed up on the kids' work. When I did it, I did all the typing and nothing happened. With today's meet, I had to be very careful with what I would call the class, so it was very hard for anybody else to log in. I think it was a little more anonymous than Answer Garden, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so today's meet, you give a link, meaning my today's meets, I create them and I give a link to my students that only they can come on it. Now, there's a couple of things about today's meet where it has improved and gotten better. One is can delete. So anything you see, if you see even a student, look, we all know, you know, not my experience. With my experience is 11th grade boys. I love 7th grade boys, favorite age to teach, and I love teaching boys. But, you know, you can get an immature kid who puts up an inappropriate comment. You can delete now. The teacher can delete, or the facilitator. Today's meet, yes, which is a big thing, number one. Yeah. Number two, you can differentiate as you saw, the colors are different in the today's meet. So you see different students right away coming up in different colors. And the big difference between today's meet and Answer Garden is one-word answers, very short. You could create an answer cloud, a word cloud, but you can't really have a more meaningful conversation, which you can with today's.
Right.
So Lori, did you put into the chat that link for the today's meet?
Here you go.
Can you edit in today's, can the kids edit
The
spelling?
kids can't edit, you can edit in today's meet. You can go back and edit today's meet. So now Lori just put in the chat the link for this today's meet, where I'm going to ask you guys, what spoke to you today? What are you excited about creating, learning with EdTech? And if you come onto that today's meet, you type in your name, you click join, and you can start that. I see Lori put that in the chat, so you just have to click onto that today's meet. If for some reason it doesn't open directly from the chat, just put it in a new tab. Yes, Lisa, you need to use that Google, at a minimum, use that Google form. Has everyone been able to get onto the today's meet? And Ariella, one of the nice things when you're teaching first through third graders, so you can, you know, with a lot of pictures, and even in other, Wiser really, you can, students have to log into that, create their own accounts and log in, but you can really be using a lot of pictures, drawings, recordings, matching, all kinds of things that students, even if they're not capable of expressing themselves in writing, can interact with and express themselves as well. Yeah, today's meet does work with Hebrew too.
Can they record their answers or no?
On today's meet?
Yeah.
No, not yet. No.
No.
No,
Okay.
not
because
yet.
we're Ivrit, so I'm just wondering, it's easier for them to orally like say what they're thinking than to actually put it down on paper.
Well, they can record themselves on a Google form. They can record themselves on Google Slides. You can embed, and they can certainly record themselves in a Wiser, for sure. There's many things they can record themselves on. And in fact, we're going to take a look now. I said to you, and I said to Rabbi Morgan, we're going to give you the cheat sheet. So where do you go from here? It's great to be excited about using EdTech. It sometimes happens that we see these things, and getting them from the picture of seeing them to real application is a little more complicated. So we at JETS, we offer a full course, an 8-week course called No Teacher Left Behind, which goes through many, many EdTech tools and apps, from simple EdTech tools and apps to much more complicated and sophisticated EdTech tools and apps that can be used with first graders through university students, can be used in Ivrit, can be used in teaching general studies as well. So we at JETS offer courses in No Teacher Left Behind, which is basic straight EdTech, learning how to apply it to your teaching. We also offer a Tanakh to Tanakh, which is learning how to use EdTech in teaching text. And we have Hebrew language EdTech teaching as well. So right now, I'm going to have Lori put the link in the chat, and I hope you guys will get here, but if not, you'll look up to our website. And on our website, I took you directly. There are many, many, many things to see on the website. You can learn about all the professional development opportunities we offer. You can learn about the courses we offer. We offer online courses. We offer school partnerships. We do custom online curriculum. There's many, many things you can learn about us. But here's your cheat sheet. We have a whole section that gives clues to all different types of tools to use. So I want to know which recording tools can be used for free, I can click right here and at the click of a button have that information at my fingers. If I want to know what are sources for Torah texts in Hebrew and English, you can click right here and have that at a click of your fingers. What online tools can be used in a classroom where the only device available for students are their phones? Differences between different mind mapping tools, different YouTube videos, making YouTube videos interactive for students tools. Hebrew vowels on my computer, which often is a complicated thing in many of the apps that we use. And we feature regularly different tools. Right now, the featured tool is a Powtoons, and you get a whole tutorial on it and some samples of Powtoons. And you can go through all the different tools. If you look on bottom, you have a list of a whole bunch of different tools that we offer information about and samples about. So you can also come onto our website and gain a lot of information about the tools that are out there and how you can apply them. But if you really, really want to become comfortable in using these tools and fluent in how to apply them in your lesson planning and bring them to your students, the best thing to do is, like in everything we do as educators, is to take a professional development course and learn and actually be put in a position where you have to create these tools and you create them for your curriculum or your area of expertise so that it's user-friendly and you can bring it to your students.
May I give a plug for the Tanakh one?
Yes, you can, Lisa.
I'm serious. I did the No Teacher Left Behind a couple of years ago, I guess. I used a lot of the tech tools for language and for holiday instruction, things like that. I was always afraid to do it for text. I didn't want to be disrespectful to the text. I just was very nervous about that. When I took that, I think it was called
Tablet to Tablet.
Right. I got some ideas, which I've been able to implement, and now I do it every year. And I have certain Google Docs set up where I just duplicate it so I have it for the next year because I put a lot into the first ones. It's amazing. It was amazing. Probably the one that was most transformative for my classroom.
Thank you, Lisa. I agree also. I taught with our founding partner, Smadar. I taught with Smadar that Tablet to Tablet last year for a group of young women of educators learning in Jerusalem at Matan, at a women's learning institution. And they were all educators, young, energetic, and they came with a little bit of a, oh my God, the kids are all the time, so much screen time, so much screen time, so much screen time. They had a little bit of a lot of resistance to bringing a lot of these apps to using and teaching Tanakh or teaching text with them. And at the end, when they did their practicums, the depth and the way they transformed themselves and the way they transformed the text and brought it to life, I mean, we cried. Like, it was powerful and beautiful, and it changed them. One I know went back and is teaching in Cleveland in the Mizrahi school, and she is a different educator, and her students are having a different learning experience because of Tablet to Tablet. So thank you, Lisa.
And then I share a lot of those kinds of things. We're a Talam school, so I know they have this Lev Talam Facebook group. I have a member to tag anybody, but I have constantly credited Jets with everything that I post there that gets a lot of likes. I don't understand why they won't collaborate. It just makes me nuts.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Lori's working on it.
I do have to say, I mean, there are places that we're collaborating with right now that, 3 years ago, there was no relationship, and now there is a relationship. So keep going, Lisa. Keep
Yeah, I pushed it with Pardes also, but I understand that everybody met finally.
Yeah, that's it. Also Pardes. Also, where else? Herzog, right, Lori? They're working with Herzog now too.
A long time, right? Right. Herzog College, and I was actually giving a course. We're actually giving a course that's going to give accreditation in EdTech. So
Nice.
yes, which is a big deal. But yes, it's out there. I mean, more and more schools, on the other hand, the number of times that we're invited into a day school or a Hebrew school, and they have, I mean, just money-wise, it's more often in a day school that they have smart classrooms and everyone has a Google Chromebook, and you give them the simplest app to do, and you realize that they really don't use them. They use, Google for pictures, and, but slowly but surely, it is changing. The more and more everybody learns EdTech and brings it to their students and brings it to their schools. So if anybody has any questions, happy to take questions at this point. Okay, if not, Lori will be in touch with everyone. Everyone will get a recording of this evening. And so, Rabbi Morgan, you'll have the link to our website and to all those tools and tool tutorials when you get that recording.
Okay, thank you. This is great. I'll definitely talk to our various education people. We also have a day school at our synagogue, so I'll let them know about it as well.
Great. Okay.
All right. It was great to meet everybody. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
You will be hearing from me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.